There are really no slow news days in the NBA at all, and I think we continue to see that in the offseason. We got LeBron James potentially teaming up with Nikola Jokic per an ESPN rumor. Luka Doncic is making his case to be MVP, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is officially done for the season. And what does that actually mean for the Milwaukee Bucks and the relationship there? We'll talk about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. Y'all, we're going to start off with a wild rumor. Now, while it's most expected that LeBron James is probably going to go back to Cleveland if he does not stay in LA, right? There's still a case for him to stay in LA with his business ventures, all those type of things. Even a rumor that he could switch franchises in LA and actually go to the Los Angeles Clippers, team up with Kawhi and those young pieces that they have down there. There's a lot of rumors around what LeBron James' next step in his future is going to be, right? Could he stay with either of the LA teams? Could he go to Cleveland where he can close the chapter of his career where it began at? All these things kind of just assume that LeBron James is only going to play one more season as well, which he could very well play more than one more season, and we'll see what happens in that case, right? But a big story of the offseason this year is going to be about what happens with LeBron James. What does LeBron James decide for the next phase of his career? Well, Dave McMenamin and Tim Bontemps are floating around in a situation where maybe LeBron could try to join the Denver Nuggets and join Nikola Jokic. Now, this one says this. One intriguing option floated to ESPN by multiple sources was Denver, where teaming up with three-time MVP Nikola Jokic would make for some awful entertaining hoops. Who is the only guy James's level from a basketball IQ point in this league? A West executive said, go there and team up with that guy. Now, here's the thing with the Denver Nuggets, right? This is a franchise that historically we all know does not want to pay the repeater tax. Even so much so that we've heard that Nikola Jokic has been frustrated before about the team's unwillingness to pay the repeater tax and keep a contending team around him and have these years where in between they're able to still be a really good team because of the nature of him and the pieces around him, but not truly be a contending team, right? Now, this is a Denver Nuggets team that this season is $3 million below the first tax apron. They're slated right now to be negative $10 million underneath the second tax apron, which could lead to them having to let a player like Peyton Watson go or trade a Cam Johnson who has 2 years remaining on his contract to free up some money. So they would have to do that regardless if they're going to want to keep LeBron James. The question then becomes about is LeBron James, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic. I doubt they're ever going to let Aaron Gordon go because he shouldn't. He's such a good role player for them and plays off Jokic well. But is that going to be enough to really compete and contend in the Western Conference, right? That's the question that you want to ask. Is that even what it's about for LeBron? You would like to think that, right? The pairing on the court from a basketball IQ perspective for Nikola Jokic, a player like LeBron, who we're seeing now is taking more of a complimentary role over like the last month for the Los Angeles Lakers and playing better off Luka. You know, the one thing with the Denver Nuggets has always been is that in the off Jokic minutes, how good is that team still, right? And it's varied to different cases. Now, having a player like LeBron James who can still facilitate and do some of those same things could be absolutely great for that. The question then becomes about the cap situation for the Denver Nuggets when needing to add LeBron James. Is LeBron willing to take less to join a team like the Denver Nuggets to pair up with Nikola Jokic and try to win a title? That's a question that you have to ask there, right? Any team interested in LeBron James has to ask the situation with the salary. That is a huge thing there. He's still a reliable starter. 21 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 34 minutes per game. He's doing that at age 41, right? The oldest player in the NBA, and it's great to see that he's still able to do that. Now, he's missed 21 games due to injury and rest, and the combination of that could Denver, a team be willing to weather that, right? If you would have to let Peyton Watson go. You'd also have to, trade away Cam Johnson or something like that. If you do that, does that work out, right? And that's where you've seen. Can they pair and work together? That's what you're looking at for that. And Tim Bontemps also said that Denver could execute a signing trade that would send James to the Nuggets and Cam Johnson or Peyton Watson back to the Lakers. Now, is that a place that the Lakers would be interested in? Not necessarily Cam Johnson. Could they do a signing trade with Peyton Watson, who's a restricted free agent, to get him over to that? It would have to be a double signing trade. Could they do something like that? And those are possible, right? You add Peyton Watson to the Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves backcourt. It doesn't do shit about your center situation. Is that an opportunity there that could make sense for the Denver Nuggets? That's the question. It's a very interesting conversation to have and a piece to have, but I still think the most likely scenario is that LeBron James goes back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. He finishes out his season strong. His career strong there, would have a chance to win a title. You join that team, even if they do need to do a sign and trade for like Jared Allen, and then you move Evan Mobley to center. You have LeBron James there. You have Donovan Mitchell. You still have James Harden there. Like, is that enough to get it done in the East? The Eastern Conference has maybe an easier path than the Western Conference to get that done, and that's what you're looking at. But we'll see. LeBron James and Jokic on the same team may be the smartest basketball that we've ever seen. But is it good enough basketball for them to win a title in the Western Conference? That's a question that would have to be asked there. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Let's stay with the Lakers here for a second, though, right? JJ Redick has made a key here in regards to Luka Doncic and his case to win MVP this season. Now, I think Wemby has made the strongest case over the last stretch here, probably the last month or two, for an MVP caliber season, right? Cade Cunningham isn't going to meet the games played thing. I still think SGA and Jokic will probably still have a little bit above Wemby to get it done, because we'll just see, voters have a little bit of bias there. But JJ Redick is making an interesting case for his guy, and he said this: I would just say if we continue to finish the season the way we've been playing right now, and he continues to play that way, to me, he's the MVP. But sometimes there's a recency bias, and sometimes there's the bias of certain stretch of the season. I think when we started 15-4, you could have made an argument that he was still MVP then. Well, he's been the MVP for 2 of the 3 segments of this season. And so that's throwing out an interesting case here, right? When you look at it, Luka has absolutely been on a tear, right? Averaging 35.5 points per game, 7.9 rebounds, 7.6 assists in 20 games that he's played since the All-Star break. That's, basically since that happened in February. And so the case becomes, does Luka have a legitimate case to win MVP? I'll say this, like, Luka would have to finish the season really, really strong. And sometimes it is that final stretch of the season and what you're able to do with that final stretch and how well your team's doing that could push you into that conversation, right? You would have to have JJ Redick pushing the narrative. You would also have to have other people pushing that narrative that happens there. The Lakers have seen a big surge in the standings here over the last part of the season, right? The third in the Western Conference right now. They're probably going to win 50 to 55 games this season as well, right? But then you have to ask yourself, there's still SGA and there's still Wemby, and that's just in the same conference. And both those teams have a considerably better record, and they've been more consistent, right? But, the question becomes about what Luka's been able to do, which has been special, and I do not want to act like it has not been. Is this late push enough to push him into an MVP, which is supposed to be for the totality of the season? And I know people are going to talk about head-to-head matchups and things like that. That doesn't always matter as much when it comes down to the season. But, to an MVP, right? But Luka's making a case here. And the way and how good the Lakers have been with Luka on the court. I know we talked about his averages since February, but let's just look at it overall in the season. 33.7 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, 8.2 assists on 47% shooting from the field and 36% shooting from the three. One of his best three-point shooting seasons of his entire career. Now, the question that you have to is that for a large part of the season, the Los Angeles Lakers couldn't beat above 500 teams. They just couldn't. Like, say what you will about them in the case of the season, but there was a stretch in there where they could not win. Now, you still have to win against below 500 teams to get to the season that you need to have, right? But it's just that question. Technically, the Lakers right now are still 1 game below 500 against above 500 teams. You look at the other 2 players at SGA and Wemby that have a case for the MVP. Their teams, are 33-14 and 32-13 against teams that are above 500. Even the Denver Nuggets are 25-20 against above 500 teams for Nikola Jokic's case. So there's a lot that has to go into that conversation as far as MVP and how and where to win it, right? And I want to be clear on that. But there's no doubt that Luka's having a great run this season. He's having a great run right now. He's going to finish this season extremely strong. And now you just have to look at it and say, has he done enough, right? Even JJ Redick in that and pushing MVP case for his guy even had to throw out a bunch of caveats in that, right? And so it's that. Like, you can only make so many caveats for an MVP case. Now, all these guys are going to have one, though. Everybody's going to have one in this year. This is one of the years, especially with the 65 game limit rule, that affect a lot of things. So you have that you have to look at. But I just think overall, you still have to, it has to be weighed some. Now, over the last 10 games, though, Luka's averaging almost 40 points per game, 39.7 points per game, 8 rebounds, 7.4 assists on 48% shooting from the field and 39% shooting from three. But like I said earlier, it becomes more about just the runs and the segments. It becomes about the entirety of the season when you're talking about MVP. So let me know what you guys think on that down below. Does Luka Doncic have a legitimate case for MVP this season? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Last bit of news before we get up out of here. This one is in regards to Giannis Antetokounmpo, and his teammate Bobby Portis said this. I don't think he'll play another game this year for sure. Just being smart as a pro right now, I don't think it's smart for him. And we'll see that, right? While the Bucks aren't eliminated from making the playoffs mathematically yet, there is that question that the Bucks have had as far as shutting him down, Giannis's disagreement with shutting him down. And then I think Bobby Portis, clarifies that in another comment where he says this. If y'all talking about trading him, you don't want any injury to knock the value off or whatever. That's just business-wise. And then player-wise, obviously you got to look at the total picture of what's going on. We're 10 games behind the 10th seed, and with 9 games left, we can't even make ground up. So with that said, you're looking at this situation with the Milwaukee Bucks. And, I've made the case for a while now, in my personal opinion, it's in the Bucks' best interest to get a lottery pick this year. Even if they do have to move on from Giannis, if they decide to move on from Giannis this season, which the Bucks, I was wrong. They are eliminated from making the playoffs this year, so there you go. It's done. But even if they do decide to move on from Giannis, adding a player in a top 10, potentially in this draft, even top 11, top 12 in this draft, it matters. It makes a difference for your reset. Or even if you're hoping to retool up and to continue trying to add for players around Giannis, you can trade a top 10 pick in this draft to get a veteran to add to the team now, which is still smart for where you're trying to go, right? So that's still smart in the case. I've always said that. I'm over on Locked On NBA, the daily version of that show, Monday through Friday. You guys should definitely check it out. But I'm on the daily version of the show. Me and my co-host Matt Moore have gone back and forth on that a lot. I still think it's in the Bucks' best interest to maximize their value in the draft, whether they want to build around Giannis or move on from Giannis this offseason. It's just in their best interest. Is it the easiest pill to swallow? Hell no. Are the trade rumors going to heat up? Hell yes. But I think when you look at Giannis, the writing's kind of already on the wall. It really does seem like Giannis Antetokounmpo is just fighting that urge to ask for a trade. And I think that comes this season, or at least by next year at the trade deadline. I think that's what it has to. This isn't just about injury. This is about a franchise that is at the crossroads of making the decision to move on from their franchise player or do the thing that's possibly in the best interest for the future of this team, to even have a future for this team. And that's what this becomes about. It becomes about so much more. I know this draft is all top 4, and let's keep in mind, you still have a draft lottery. So even if you finish with the 11 best odds in the lottery, you still have a chance to go into that top 4. Then even on top of that, this is a historically deep draft where you can get franchise-altering talent. There are GMs that think you can get all-star caliber talent in the 20s in this draft. So this is still the best-case scenario. And if they do decide to move on from Giannis, there are going to be teams that come calling that are willing to offer a lot for Giannis. You can end up with 2 first-round picks. For example, the Golden State Warriors, if they do not make it out the play-in this year, they very well could look to trade their first-round pick to get some talent right now to add to Steph, add to Dre, add to Jimmy, and try to go hard at it again with the Wild Hog season that they're going to have, right? Those are all options here. And that's what the Bucks have to decide what's best for their franchise, and that's what the crossroads they're at right now. They're at that crossroads of deciding what's best for the future of their franchise. And we'll see. Will they decide on immediate future and try to still build around Giannis, trading that top 10 pick or that lottery pick, I'll say? Or do they do the opposite and they start planning on their future without Giannis? Let me know which route that you think the Milwaukee Bucks should go with the direction of their team this offseason, in trading or keeping Giannis, and the value that's in that first-round pick. They're not making the playoffs now, so they're going to have a lottery pick. And what they do with that lottery pick can really alter the direction one way or another of what they choose to do with their franchise. And I want to hear from you guys on that one down below. But that's going to do it for today's episode, y'all. There's a lot around the NBA right now. Look at how crazy this season has been for the NBA. From start to finish, all the storylines, all the different things that we've covered. Now imagine what this offseason is going to look like, right? Because if any one of these moves happen where, depending on where LeBron goes, the league could shift a little bit, right? And depending on what happens with Giannis, the league could shift a little bit again. So we're going to see a lot. Make sure you guys stay in tune with us here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be bringing news this offseason as fast as humanly possible. So make sure you guys stay in tune with us and locked in with us there. Otherwise, you guys can follow us at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. I'll continue catching you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Maybe tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.